All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the May 20th, 2025 meeting of the West Richland City Council. So I'll ask Jessica if you'll go ahead and call the roll. And also Planning Commission is in attendance this evening, so welcome for our Planning Commission. Join us. Thank you. Appreciate that. After doing the council roll call, please call the roll for the Planning Commission.
Okay, Brent Gary.
Here.
Richard Bloom.
Here.
Fred Brink.
Here.
David Fetto, asked to be excused. May Hayes. Here. Kate Moran. Present. John Smart.
Here.
Ken Stoker.
Here.
Now for Planning Commission, Braden Slaughter, asked to be excused. Chad Utek. Nancy Aldridge. Dan O'Neill. Colton Brady, asked to be excused. Michael Peterson. Asked to be excused. And Jared Ritter.
And may I have a motion to excuse the Planning Commission individuals that requested from the Planning Commission, please? Okay. All in favor, say aye there. All right. Got everybody confused here. You got two people, two different groups in the house. And then will you excuse Council Member Fetto, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those like sign, motion carries. Thank you, Council. And I will ask Council Member Moran to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Council Member Moran. Had to unfold it from your pocket. Oh, okay. That's fine. I turned around and looked to see if I lost you back there. No, that's okay. Very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Council, the agenda is before you this evening. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Council. Presentations this evening, we have Burke is going to present virtually on the Lewis and Clark Ranch update, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Eric for the introductions of our speakers and to cue up the presentation. And members of the Planning Commission as well as Council, just a reminder, there's no question and answers tonight. This is just a presentation. If you do have questions, please make note of those questions and forward them to Eric Mendenhall at your convenience. So with that, Eric, floor is yours.
Thank you, Brent. Thanks for covering the no questions this evening. I'm sure you will have questions, so please do write those down and be happy to talk with you about them. We will have work sessions with both the Planning Commission and the Council in the future. Planning Commission, you'll be looking forward to that here next month at your regular meeting. So we do have Burke Consultant, who is our consultant hired to help us with the Lewis and Clark Ranch. They've been working with us for several years now as we've been trudging through all of the details of what's required and getting all of the I's dotted, T's crossed, and we are working diligently and getting everything ready to go to help the Lewis and Clark Ranch all prepped and set to start develop. We've got Casey Bradfield here with us this evening, as well as Oneza, and I'll let them kick off our presentation for this evening.
Thank you, Eric, for that introduction. I'm excited to be here with all of you tonight. I've been working with the city on this project since 2022 and excited to continue the journey. And also appreciate you making time on your agenda for this short presentation, since I know you have other agenda items tonight. Let's see. Okay, so the way we're planning to do our presentation is spend the first half just doing a refresh on this project and giving an overview. And then the second half would introduce the idea of form-based code, which is something that's being considered as part of the project. Okay, so what is the Lewis and Clark Ranch project? In 2020, the owner of the Lewis and Clark Ranch applied to change their comprehensive plan, future land use and zoning designations. And this area is basically the northwest chunk of the city that's currently in agricultural use as part of that ranch. So when the property owner made these applications, that started a city process that included developing a sub-area plan, doing a planned action environmental impact statement, and also doing some related amendments to the comprehensive plan, zoning map, and city code. To dive a little bit deeper into those different pieces, the sub-area plan is going to provide policy guidance for how that area develops, kind of area-wide big picture framework for it. And the intent is to adopt the sub-area plan as part of the comprehensive plan. And at the same time we're developing that, we're also doing the EIS, environmental impact statement. And we're studying a few different ways that sub-area plan could be in the EIS. And the final EIS document will be what the sub-area plan is based on. So the reason the city's doing an EIS is that when they received the application from the property owner, they found that doing the scope of change in the application would likely result in significant environmental impacts. So that under the State Environmental Policy Act requires SEPA review. And the city's planning to do a special kind of EIS called a planned action ordinance. So there's a first phase part of the sub area where initial development would occur. And there's a more detailed level of analysis being done for that area. And we're identifying mitigation measures to help address environmental impacts in that area. And those would be documented in a planned action ordinance that would be adopted as part of the EIS. And the advantage of doing that is that once you have that planned action ordinance in place, if project applications come in and they're consistent with that planned action ordinance and the mitigation it calls for, they don't have to do additional SEPA review. So it's a little extra work upfront, but it can allow for faster permitting in the future. And then the other piece of the project is to update the comprehensive plan and city code for consistency with the final sub-area plan and planned action EIS. And one piece of that could be adopting a form-based code for the sub-area, which Anessa is going to talk a little bit about that later on. Here's a map of the study area. So you can see the full area highlighted there on the map is the Lewis and Clark Ranch. And then that bottom corner is about 10% of the land area. That would be the phase one, where initial development would occur over the next 20 years. And that's where the planned action ordinance would apply to. In the draft EIS, we're studying 3 alternatives. So we're studying what the applicant proposed. Under SEPA, we also need to study, what would happen under the city's existing plans and codes if there were no changes, to compare that against, to be like a baseline against what the applicant proposed. And then we also need to study a reasonable alternative, which is a way to achieve the applicant's objectives with lower environmental impacts in some way. So those 3 are being studied in the draft EIS, and then there will be a public comment period, after which point the city gets to choose which alternative they prefer to be in the final EIS. And that could be one of the 3 that we're studying right now, or it could be a hybrid that's in the range of what has been studied in the draft EIS. I'm going to quickly run through the 3 alternatives that we're studying in the draft EIS. The first one is business as usual. So we are assuming the city's current plans and code don't change. This is a map of your current zoning. And as you can see, most of the ranch area is in urban transition, which means it's being sort of reserved for future long-term growth. but there is a part of the ranch that is already zoned for commercial and residential uses. It has a commercial hub in the corner and a little commercial corridor that stretches up into the ranch with some moderate intensity residential uses around it. What the applicant has proposed is just going ahead and providing zoning for the full ranch so that the city can have coordinated planning for that full area over the long term. You can see how some of the current zoning is being carried through in this proposal, where there's still that commercial hub and corridor going up into the ranch with some moderate density housing around it. This proposal would keep all of the city's current zones, except it would add one new mixed-use zone, which is exciting in a way that could help accomplish some of the goals in the city's comprehensive plan. There's also a linear green space going up through the ranch as part of the McWhirter Canal, as well as linear green space along the Yakima River. And this is the third alternative we're studying. This was developed by the city in partnership with community members through a design charrette that we held in 2022. And you can see some similarities with the applicant's proposal here. There's a few differences I want to point out. One is the size of the phase 1 area. It's a little bit different. And the reason for that is we found through the EIS process that the left top corner of the phase 1 can't be served easily with sewer. So we adjusted that boundary to make initial development more feasible. This alternative also has a gridded street network concept and some new cross sections that are designed to promote walkability and bikeability. And the land use designations that are proposed are based on new urbanist design concepts that promote a greater mix of uses and hubs, community hubs, where people could easily walk to key destinations within 5 minutes or so. So this would be a more significant change to the city's current zoning code. And the idea is it would be implemented with a form-based code. Eric, would you add anything to that before I continue on?
Just that we've been in a lot of coordination with the applicant as well. So they've been very much aware of all of the different all of the different scenarios and looking at them. And we've been in a lot of coordination with them over the last couple of years. So.
Thank you. All right, this is a process overview slide. We started our process back in 2022, which is when the city issued their SEPA determination, which started the EIS process. We had a scoping comment period where agencies and members of the public and other partners could comment. We held another engagement opportunity through the public visioning charrette in May. And then there was a lot of work done by our consultant team with the city, as well as other consultants that were hired by the city under separate contracts and by the applicant to provide technical information for the EIS. And we were moving along and cooking, and then we realized we needed to pause because the city was also in the process of updating its sewer plan and water plan, and we really needed some additional information about the ability to serve the ranch area with that infrastructure, and also needed to do some additional analysis to better understand transportation impacts of that growth on some other projects. So while that analysis took place, we paused, and then earlier this year, the city felt you were in a place to get started again. So we restarted the project and incorporated the new information, and we're aiming to have a draft EIS that's ready to publish in July. There would be a 30-day public comment period, and then after that, all of you would get to select a preferred alternative. And we would then work to finalize all the materials, the final EIS, sub-area plan, planned action ordinance, and amendments to the city code and comprehensive plan for review and adoption through fall and the end of the year. There are a number of times when members of the public and other partners could comment during this process. A key one that's coming up will be that 30-day public comment period for the draft EIS. That'll be in July. There will also be obviously opportunities to engage through Planning Commission and City Council meetings to select the preferred alternative and to review and approve the final materials through the end of the year. And with that, I will turn it over to Oneza.
Thank you, Casey. Good evening, everybody. I'm Firdous Oneza, but I go by Oneza, and I have lived and worked in Tri-Cities for a long time. So this project is I feel very connected to this and super excited about this. Let's go to the next slide. So I wanted to give you a broad overview of what form-based code is. And if you think of like the time, like historic time before 1920s, of course we were not there at that time, but how the developments were at that time, there were no land use code that are in place now, like Euclidean zoning we call it. So land uses were more flexible, meaning that uses were more close to each other. And it was based on communities' needs. So sometimes they did create some incompatibility, but then the neighborhoods were based on communities' needs. So the communities, towns were developed organically. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so then there was this land use zoning that was initiated in 1920s or so, and that actually put like separation of different uses. So what it did was by separating different uses become far apart, and then led to it removed the incompatibility to some degree, but it also made us drive more. It ignored some of the community needs like walkability. So we now depend more on cars, and by spreading the uses, we need more land, and more land consumption increases the cost. Let's go to the next slide. So the form-based code it's actually nothing new. It's more like what was practiced in the past. So it's bringing that into this new era to basically focus on human needs, like communities' needs. So these are addressing the challenges that conventional zoning has created, and it focuses on built environment and then the community's experience. It focuses on more placemaking, and then need to walk to school, walk to the stores, the corner store, all those kinds of things. Let's go to the next slide. So in terms of the differences, like how we define form-based code. So conventional zoning, that would give you a zoning district, and then it dictates as like what is the height, what is the floor area ratio, all that. But then communities have added zoning design guidelines that added the articulation, modulation, those types of standards. But what form-based code has done has taken communities to the next level, and it has looked at the context, and it has looked at the accessibility and landscaping, all different components, and integrated into a more building blocks and building floors, percentage of build sites. So it has gotten into the finer grained pattern. So let's go to the next slide. So this is an example of the idea of form-based code. Again, it's nothing new. You have seen it in many towns and cities, that how there is city center, and then there's transition, and then there is rural. So there's this rural and urban and rural transition. It might seem pretty common, but this one identifies different sectors by transects, and it identifies the city center and then urban center zone, and then the next one is the general urban zone, suburban zone, rural zone, and then natural zone, or which could also be agriculture. So that's the basic idea behind it. Let's go to the next slide. So these are some of the examples how form-based code has looked at the building blocks and development of the buildings and block relationship. So on your left side, you see the big block, and then how like these are like primary like arterial roads, the block surrounded by arterial or collector, and then you add new streets in between and divide that block, and you go further to the right, you see that more residential roads added, more alleys added, and then more lots are subdivided. And then on the right side, you see that lots are subdivided and how buildings are placed. And buildings are not just one size. It depends on which the relationship with the street. Like on the right block, on the rightmost diagram, you'll see that some of the blocks that are adjoining the arterial road on the left side that are bigger blocks, and then you go to the right side, like beyond that arterial road, you see more like smaller scale residential buildings. So it sort of transitions and creates that relationship with the street. Next, go to the next slide. And this is, and the code is not just the relationship between block and building, but it also overlays like streets and parks. So all the elements that the community needs and we care about so much. So it looks at different layers of parks in the neighborhood on the left side, and then you go to a little bit more smaller scale to the community park, pocket park, and at the end, like once you go to the finer grain of the buildings, you look into the pocket parks to courtyards, building courtyards, or smaller plazas, and even the experience when you get out of the building, what you see in terms of the public realm. Let's go to the next slide. So some of the basic components of the code is that develop the plan with the transit-based zones, building form and standards, street connectivity, street and connectivity standards, civic space standards, frontage type, subdivision standards, and administration. So like I said, it's not just, excuse me, not just the building itself, but it's actually overlays or integrates all the components of what we experience as a community, what we need as a community. It connects all of those for our experience. And then at the end, it's also the code also needs to be mindful of how you're administering the entire code so that the correct implementation gets into this mix. If we go to the next slide. So here's an example of how you can transform a space with the proper design and get into the context. So Casey, if you could just click one by one. So yeah, you see that this adds to the wider sidewalk and then some street furnishings and landscaping. And next slide. So this one adds more like building close to the sidewalk, and you have some more landscaping in the median. And in the final slide, you see that how placemaking happens. So you see that people are walking. And when we go to some places where we feel more comfortable, it's one of the reasons we feel so comfortable walking is because it's more scaled to human activities, and you have more relationship with the trees, with the building, and with the street, and streets are not so wide that you just cannot connect or you don't feel safe. So it comes all together. Let's go to the next slide. So I wanted to share some of the examples that form-based code, like I said, is nothing new. It's bringing the old ideas and implementing them, ideas that had worked in the past. And some of the jurisdictions they're already implementing in the state. So University Place is one example where they had put together this, and I had worked on this code. So you look at the transit zones, but then you look at what are the building types, what are the frontage types, what are the heights, so all of those standards, and you put by each of the zones. And North Bend downtown, they're also looking at some of the form-based code in terms of some of the building frontages, and then what's the frontage would look like, what the public street would look like. And I would like to also mention that when we're working with a city or working in the design, urban design of a placemaking, you have limited scope within the building, but then between two buildings, the public space that you have, that's your entire area that you can change to have the public experience. So when somebody comes in and experiences that public realm, that's what form-based code is focusing on. What are the public realm that could enhance that experience? So let's go to the next slide. So some other examples, I had worked on Broadmoor, Pasco, that master plan has been coming into fruition, not entirely form-based code, it was a mix, but then you also have Badger Mountain in Tri-Cities that have some components of the form-based code as well. And some of those are working nicely and communities are living there already. Next, go to the next slide. So what we can do with West Richland, our approach is to look at a hybrid option where you consider land uses that the sub-area plan would provide. And then we would also look into the street network and updated street standards. And then we would look at housing options, different house form, and then we would look at your commercial forms. So it's not entirely form, but it also would have your traditional, like, what are the commercial uses that would go into this form? So we would look into that as well. But based on different zone, your height and form could be different. And some of those, like housing, for example, different housing types that city would have to apply anyway. So it's not gonna be like entirely new product. Let's go to the next slide. I think that was I think that was the last one, but I'm super excited about this.
Thank you, Casey and Onesa. Appreciate you guys tonight and presenting that. More information will be coming to you, council. And if you've written some questions down, I'd be happy to talk with you and meet with you personally and answer those questions that you have. Planning Commission, likewise, you guys know how to reach me. This is a huge project. It is setting the table quite literally for the rest of the Lewis and Clark Ranch. So getting it right is very important to us, and that's why it's taken so long. We started this, like I said, back in 21, and it's just been trudging along as we've been getting through this to make sure that we had all of the right pieces in the right spots. And we've been, like I said earlier, we've been working very closely with the property owner, making sure that they are on board with everything that we've been moving forward with as well. So Roscoe, he's even on board with most of it as well. We've worked out some of the kinks in the road systems together, and it's been great. And Casey and Onesa and their team have been doing a phenomenal job making sure that we keep Roscoe coming along with us, because it's engineers, they like, straight lines and black and white, and in planning we get a little creative and have a lot of fun. So more information to come. Like I said, hopefully if you've got questions, you can reach out to me directly and we can get those addressed. Thank you, Mayor, Council.
And that's the reason sometimes I wear the shirt with the black stripes and the white stripes and a whistle in my mouth, but we're moving along quite well. So Planning Commission, thank you very much for joining us this evening. You're more than welcome to stay for the remainder of the council meeting if you choose to do so. I'd like to thank the Lewis and Clark Ranch team for joining us this evening. Much appreciated, and the same goes for you. We have a lot more fun to go, so if you'd like to join us, go ahead and stay. If not, this would be an opportune time to roll on out.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Onesa.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All righty, council, that brings us to the consent agenda this evening, which consists of payment of the bills, approve the minutes of the regular meeting, May 6, 2025. Ordinance 1025, text amendment for fencing for utility facilities. Resolution 2425, setting a public hearing date for the 2026-2031 six-year transportation improvement program. Motion to authorize the mayor to enter in an amended memorandum of understanding with Ben Franklin Council of Governments, Benton County, City of Kennewick, City of Richland, City of Pasco for their regional approach to climate change planning. If there's anyone from the audience who'd like to speak to the consent agenda this evening, come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. I see no one in house, so I will reach out to anybody virtually. Star 9 or raise your virtual hand to be recognized. I see no one virtually. Jessica, do you?
I do not.
Council may have a motion to approve the consent agenda this evening.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, council. Now we'll move on to the first opportunity for citizen comments that are related to items that are not on the agenda this evening. If you'd like to provide any comments, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. We'll give you 3 minutes to make comments for items not on the agenda this evening. See no one in house. Virtually again, star 9 or raise your virtual hand to be recognized. Make any public comment. Seeing no one virtually. Jessica, do you?
I do not.
So then we'll go ahead and move on to items 8A and 8B, or a closed record hearing and a motion to approve a plat number 002-2024, the Bluffs preliminary plat. Since this is a closed record hearing, I'll ask our city attorney, Jessica Foltz, to read through the hearing guidelines. And then we'll hear from our planner, Alicia Ransom, with her staff report. So, Jessica.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A public body's decision on a quasi judicial matter must be based on and supported by the record in that matter. The record consists of all testimony or comment presented at the public hearing and all documents or exhibits that have been submitted in connection with the matter being considered. Only parties of record will be allowed to provide comments. No new information or documentation can be introduced. The purpose of this closed record hearing is for the City Council to consider the pertinent facts, applicable law, and to make a final decision on the Bluffs preliminary plat file number plat-002-2024. The appearance of fairness doctrine applies to this hearing. That doctrine requires that this hearing be fair in form, substance, and appearance. The hearing must not only be fair, it must also appear to be fair. Therefore, at this time, I would like to ask a few questions of the council. Has any member of the council engaged in communication with opponents or proponents regarding this issue outside of the public hearing process?
No.
Will any member of the council obtain any financial benefit or suffer a financial loss as a result of the outcome of this hearing?
No.
Is there any member of the council who believes that he or she cannot hear and consider this application in a fair and objective manner?
No.
Is there any member of the public, either proponent or opponent of this matter, who objects to the participation of any of the council members in hearing this matter? Seeing none, I believe we're good to proceed, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Much appreciated. And I'll turn it over to Alicia for her staff report. Alicia?
Good evening. I have a subdivision. The applicant is PBS Environmental and Engineering on behalf of the developer Frank Teagues LLC. The property is 104.8 acres, and it's to be developed in 9 phases with 406 residential lots. That's located north of Rupert Road, directly north of the Heights at Red Mountain Ranch, the west side of the Heights at Red Mountain Ranch development. The application materials are located in attachment 1 of your staff report. Just to highlight a couple things, include that were included in the reports that they submitted the traffic impact analysis. The applicant originally submitted the traffic impact analysis for the Lewis and Clark Ranch, which we just talked about. Public Works asked for a specific TIA to the project area, and SEPA review was put on hold in July of 2024 to do a full traffic impact analysis for this specific project, and Public Works accepted the updated TIA in April of 2025. So that's why the file number is from 2024. The SEPA review, the critical areas report discusses the habitat area and specifically highlights that the study found no pristine areas of shrub steppe habitat as defined in Title 18 of the West Richland Municipal Code, and mitigation for those shrub steppe areas will not be needed. Additionally, a cultural resources report was provided specific to the project area in December of 2024, and that will be provided to both the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, as well as Yakima Nation for concurrence. The SEPA review, the project is subject to the State Environmental Policy Act. The mitigated determination of non-significance was issued on April 22nd of 2025. The SEPA MDNS is included in your packet in attachment 3. We received comments. I'll highlight a few specific ones that were more salient. The Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation did ask for a survey, and as well as the Yakima Nation, and that will be provided to them. Washington State Department of Transportation highlighted the proximity of the project to the SR 224 improvement project and recommended that the city require the applicant to provide a TIA. The Bonneville Power Administration highlighted that BPA approval is required for all activities within the planned that are planned within the BPA easement. That BPA easement runs from the southern limit of the project area northward, so along the length of the plat. The BPA also has asked to review, well, they require review and approval of the location of proposed roads that will intersect the BPA easement. That's the two that will head eastward, the two roads that will head eastward from the plat. We did receive, when the project was sent out for public notice, it was sent to property owners within 600 feet as is required by code. We received several written comments from the public and additional comments at the Planning Commission hearing. And we have several things that were themes in those comments that we would like to address, that the additional homes would create additional noise and traffic. The developer shall be required to enter a traffic impact fee mitigation agreement per Title 16, and that's required in Condition 6 of the Conditions of Approval. The developer is also required to abide by West Richland Municipal Code 9.38, which is noise regulation, and that governs construction noise, vehicular traffic noise, and any other noise associated with residential use. Additionally, the developer is required per Condition 1M to install a CMU block wall that's 6 foot tall along the Rupert Road frontage, and that's to screen the subdivision from noise and traffic, as well as provide screening to the properties to the south. The next concern was about light pollution. We have lighting standards in West Richland Municipal Code, Chapter 17.55. And additionally, the SEPA mitigation measures require specific things. Mitigation Measure 20 requires a specific type of lighting, and that's consistent with the code. The next concern was regarding the density. The density proposed is incompatible with the existing large lots located in the county along Rupert Road. This is a little bit of a tricky thing where the city regulates the city property the city limits, within the city limits, the county regulates within the county limits. So we have different zoning densities. I believe it's minimum, at least it's like minimum 2 acres, something like that, south.
5 acres.
5 acres, minimum 5 acres. Okay. We did talk about that and I don't keep track of it because county. But they have different requirements. The proposed density of these lots is consistent with the zoning of the parcel. The proposed lots meet the minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet per lot and 7,500 square feet for corner lots. The average lot size of the development is 7,120 square feet. It's consistent with both the comprehensive plan designation and the zoning designation of the parcel. The next concern that the public comment cited was disrupting mailbox locations for those with mailboxes on Rupert Road. Condition 20 specifically requires that the developer is responsible for coordinating with the United States Postal Service and the residents to relocate the existing mailboxes located on Rupert Road. They'll be located off of Rupert Road and also off of any arterials that are within the development. The one issue that was raised during the Planning Commission public hearing was regarding the wells, the impact to the wells of the property owners south of Rupert Road. So there's a difference between the exempt wells that these property owners have south of Rupert and the wells that the city digs down to the aquifers that serve the city with water. The depth is significantly different. The exempt wells pull from a shallower aquifer and it's separate from what the city pulls from. Additionally, the Department of Ecology put together a presentation to discuss those water sources and issues with those exempt wells several years ago. I believe it was in 2012. And with that information was provided to those property owners at that time. The Public Works Department has also determined that the city has enough water to serve the development. Agency comments that we received during the public notice portion, Benton REA, they have specific infrastructure needs that they cited, and they're working with the property owner to clean up an existing easement that wanders through phases 1, 3, and 4 of the proposed development. And Benton County Public Works, they specifically cited that Rupert and DeMoss roads are classified, the portions that are within the county jurisdiction are classified as rural minor collectors. The county doesn't anticipate that the residents will use that the residents of this plat will use the county's portion of Rupert and DeMoss. Future developments of the surrounding property would require use of county roads, and that will be part of any future development. That will be a consideration. They asked the city of West Richland to verify that the roads are able to accommodate the increased trips. The traffic impact fee mitigation agreement that's required will require the construction of Rupert Road along the plat frontage to city standards with a total of 70 feet of road right of way. As I said before, the development is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The designation is medium density residential. Some specific goals that this is meeting are promoting a variety of residential densities and housing types, which is housing goal A, and a plan for residential neighborhoods that promote the health and well-being of residents by supporting actively living, which is housing policy 32, and that goes along with the proposed park. The proposed development is consistent with the requirements of medium density residential. And again, the zoning, it's zoned RM6, consistent with the zoning, consistent with the lot requirements, the dimensions, the depth, and we'll be able to meet the lot coverage. The proposed park mitigation for this plat is specifically a park impact fee mitigation agreement that will require the construction of a green belt. There'll be a trail as well as a portion of natural vegetation as well as a portion of landscaped drought-tolerant landscaping and areas with picnic tables, benches, trash receptacles, pet waste stations, and other and connectivity to the existing trail along the west side of Heights at Red Mountain Ranch and connection to future trails. The Planning Commission voted to recommend to City Council that they approve the preliminary plat based on the findings of fact, and staff also recommends the approval of the preliminary plat as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Very well done. A lot of work there, a lot of work. And so what we'll do is we'll ask if there's any parties of record that'd like to comment on this item this evening. Come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. See no one in house. We'll move on virtually. Any party of record virtually this evening?
No, there's not.
Motion to approve file number plat 002-024, the Bluffs preliminary plat. Council, do I have a motion, please?
I'll move to approve preliminary plat, number plat 002-2024, the Bluffs, based upon the findings of fact, conclusions of law, conditions of approval, and as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Second.
Second, council questions that weren't previously answered in the staff report of either Eric, Roscoe, or Alicia this evening. Councilmember Smart.
Thank you, sir. So just a couple questions. There was quite a bit of material here, and you maybe can help me guide through some of this. The Rupert Road improvements, will that include, I mean, you stated the width, would that include turn lanes to get in and out of this development versus the?
We're a public works guy that makes the roads.
Hit it, Roscoe.
So, if council remembers, several months ago, we went through a process. The south half of Rupert Road wasn't annexed into the city, so we went through a process to annex it in. So what you'll see is full 3-lane arterial, including curb gutter, sidewalks, and street lights on the south side, so that we don't have half road improvements.
So the south side is the side opposite from where this
That's correct. It's the
Urban,
county side,
okay.
but all the improvements will be built to full city standards, since all the right of way is in the city limits.
And so the other side of Rupert, the north side, will have some.
It'll have the development, curb gutter, sidewalk.
Oh, it will.
Actually, it'll have a separated pathway on the north side.
Okay.
So both sides.
With the block wall.
That's
Okay,
correct.
all right. The other question I had, similar, is with the mailboxes. Can you tell me where the mailboxes, they will be put on, I presume, on the county side of the road? Where
I can answer that one as well.
So we will work with the post office. They will come off of Rupert Road. More likely, there's several private drives that come off the south side. So the first choice would be to relocate them there. If not, they can be relocated in the streets off of Rupert into this development.
Are there easements, or will somebody have to purchase property, or?
Nope.
Okay.
No,
Cool.
goes in within the existing access easements, but we'll coordinate with the post office, the postmaster.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That's all I had.
Brad?
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is a lot of information. So thank you first off to staff for getting all of this done. So there was one, sorry, I'm trying to find it again. There was so much. It's difficult to filter through the 700 some odd pages. I noticed the notes or the concerns that the Yakima Nation had, and I just wanted to make sure what would happen if there was something of cultural significance found.
So what the actual cultural resources survey recommended was an inadvertent discovery plan. And the inadvertent discovery plan, it requires, if there is something found, that they call specific numbers. They're listed in the conditions. They're listed in the SEPA, what the actions they would take, and all work has to stop, and they call the numbers that are required, and then they move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. I also noticed that the Benton County Clean Air Agency, and I don't recall if you had mentioned specifically what the plan was to mitigate the possibilities of airborne dust and whatnot. Is that something you mentioned? It was a
So
lot?
they're specifically required to do proof of contact soil destabilization notices as they're doing their civil work. And then that'll also require, after the work is done, they have to control the dust during the work. And then, after the work is completed, any disturbed dirt will have to be hydroseeded to control the dust afterwards. So that's pretty standard with all projects that they're going to do things like that to mitigate. And obviously it's the developer's responsibility to keep the dust down as they're working.
Fair, thank you. And then the last question I had was about the traffic study. Something that I don't know. I think I'm allowed to mention it about BFCOG and the traffic demand modeling that they're able to offer. I don't know if that's something that was able to be used instead, or if that's something totally different than what is being required.
We require a transportation impact analysis done. We did for this project because of its size and then because of what's going on around it by the same applicant. We use BFCOG quite regularly to run some models, but the traffic demand model is not part of this.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I would also like to note that I really appreciate the naming of the streets. So thank you to whoever decided that.
That was Alicia. Yeah. And Councilmember Bloom.
Alicia, there was is there any sage or step mitigation in this? I think you said there wasn't any need.
So there's a specific requirement in Title 18 that it specifies a type of habitat and a size of habitat. And according to those definitions, the areas that work shrub step, they're not pristine, meaning they don't meet that definition, and they don't meet the size requirement. They're not large enough to meet that.
Why?
It's 2 acres.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is just something coming out of Benton County Conservation District. They're looking for sage step to put into a reserve because they have money to buy it. I guess my other question, it goes back to Roscoe or the concrete block walls only going on the north side. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. On the development side on the north side of the road.
And that's to shield the new subdivision from the noise on Rupert, not the existing.
They are not noise wall. They are landscaping walls. So it's aesthetics, not noise.
And the HOA is intended to maintain that common area, or is that now? The
green belt?
The green belt.
Yes. That's indicated in the park impact fee mitigation agreement. The HOA will be required to maintain it, but it will also need to be open to the public.
Right. And finally, I notice you have the option of putting transit pullouts. I'm not certain transit's going to put a bus down Rupert. I mean, we're going more to the using the via approach to service these areas, especially as they spread out. So have we worked with transit on what's the overall planning?
Yeah, we're talking with transit. That can be the short-term solution, but long-term solution, we believe that transit service, both buses will be necessary in the Lewis and Clark Ranch. So having that there for the future, 20 years from now, whatever it may take, is going to be imperative.
Autonomous vehicles.
Councilmember Smart, go ahead.
Yeah, Alicia, I was just looking at that green belt area, and then there's a power line, I think, is that right, to the west of it?
Correct.
And so the improvements to the green belt area, do they stop at that power line easement or do they continue underneath it? And do we know will those power lines be realigned or replaced with new ones? And
They're Bonneville Power Administration, so that's those permits that are required. Anything that does go in there will be has to be permitted by BPA. So we don't know what they're going to allow. Roscoe may have more intelligence as to what they'll allow, but it's BPA.
So we're hoping to leave that the natural area because they're not
That's
going to
the
allow us to
natural area.
put, yeah, they're not
Okay.
going to let us put trees or anything like that. But there's a permitting process to go through for trails, the road crossings, the utility crossings. We've done it. We just did it with our pathway. We're doing it with Keene Road, the Van Giesen project. So, but yeah, there's no major things that we're planning under the power lines there.
Okay, thank you.
See that if you look at the BPA lines going through the rest of the city, you'll see a lot of green belt right underneath them. That's the ideal thing. So get back to Councilmember Moran.
Thank you. Apologies. I remembered the other thing I was going to mention. Regarding the landscaping brick wall that's going to be put up against the road, I would like to say I have concerns about that, especially because there is a noticeable difference in speed, at least from what I understand from studies that have been done, where if you've got walls that are especially somewhat far from the road, it will encourage people. It won't encourage per se, but people will unconsciously find themselves starting to go faster down those because they don't have things closer to them. There isn't the possibility of a child running into the road, which I hope that would never happen, but people do tend to be more cautious if there is the possibility. So I would like to at least say I'm concerned about the use of a brick wall completely, because I've noticed myself driving down Keene going faster. Luckily, the chief isn't here, faster than the limit at times. And I think a lot of that has to do with fences or walls on both sides of the road.
So
Yeah.
the walls are a code requirement, so that would be something council would have to look at a separate thing, but speeding everywhere, whether you have a wall or not. So it's all throughout the area. People are just not following the speed limit. As part of this development, as the Heights development goes and they're redoing Rupert Road, that will not be 50 mile an hour. So as the development comes, that will probably be lowered to 35, 40 miles an hour. So that'll be coming to council. So the posted speed along there will change as development occurs.
Okay, well, and then I guess in that case, I would just like to say that if we are going to be talking code anytime in the near future, I'd really like to take a look at the brick wall along the roads.
And are you pulling up again there? Councilmember Bloom? I'm holding for the.
Oh, okay. So the last Snowmageddon, we had, what's 8-foot high drifts on Rupert, higher than that. All right. How long did it take us to clear that? And will the wall make this worse or better? Or have we looked at that snow fencing? I just
I just need to ask a question. Jessica, this is nothing that was brought up in the hearing. Is this something that we can even address tonight?
Yeah, I will say, obviously council can ask questions, but we are limited to the open record and any comments that were made. So with that, let's keep it to that.
And just a historical point, please explain how you came up with the names of the roads. I thought this was quite ingenious.
I'm always looking for potential road names because I don't know why. Every time I need an idea, I'm like, I don't know. So I was doing some research on, I think it was a presentation. I can't remember where it was, but it was a presentation about Hanford. And I was like, well, let me do some little Googling. And I was like, well, I think that would be, we have Leona Levy Middle School. Why not highlight more of the women who worked on the Manhattan Project? And they did a lot of really important work, and their contributions are highlighted in the staff report.
Much for that extra effort. I appreciate it. With that, council, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, council. We do not have any unfinished business this evening or new business, so this is the time for the second final public comment. If you'd like to provide comments to council, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone in house? Seeing no one in house, virtually *9 or raise your virtual hand to be recognized for public comment. I do not see anyone. Jessica, do you?
I do not.
We're going to go ahead and move on to staff and council announcements, reports, and comments. Staff members, anything from you this evening? Council, anyone from council dais here? We'll start down at Councilmember Moran's end.
Thank you very much. We did just have the Benton Franklin Council of Governments meeting this last Friday, and there were a few things that I wanted to touch on that I want to make sure, I'm sure that our staff is aware of, but just in case. First off, the Safe Streets and Routes for All through federal highways, that is due on June 26th. I don't know if we've looked into those at all. Also, there were some changes made to the TIP, the Transportation Improvement. Roscoe, help me out. TIP, Transportation Improvement Plan Program. There we go. The policies and procedures are changed slightly just to kind of make sure that people are meeting their obligations rather than just letting it slip by and possibly losing the area money. There was also discussion that we had regarding the travel demand modeling contract, which I was mentioning earlier, where instead of the city having to do travel demand modeling, they could ask BFCOG to do that because they do have a charge code line for that. So we wouldn't have to spend as much money on things like that. Also, I'm sure the staff is aware, Congressional Connections are going to be happening tomorrow. They still had open spots on Friday. I don't know if we wanted to use that. And then finally, what I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be very happy about, a report from the Port of Benton is that the railroads are now up to 10 miles per hour. And the objective is to get to 25 miles per hour next year, which, man, they're going to be speeding by at that point. Yeah.
Please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to do a shout out to Roscoe and Eric, all the work they're putting in on the Veterans Cemetery. Okay, thanks. Sorry. We're down 2 areas that we're looking at. West Richland and one is in Richland. And naturally, we would love the West Richland one, but we're just pleased to have a veteran cemetery come to our region as a whole and what it will do for our veterans. We have 46,000 veterans in this area and more. And so, and encompassing everybody around this area that it will serve. Thank you guys. You're working hard. It's turning out great. And we will have another update this week. I talked to Heidi in Olympia this and we're going to have we just had an April update. Now we're going to have another update. And with all the work that Roscoe and Eric are doing and working with them with Olympia, the VA. So it's exciting to see this keep moving forward. We know there's time limits. We know it's going to take longer than what we had hoped for, but it's all come. Appreciate everybody's input. Better getting behind it. And I'm just we have 3 events. We're trying to get more involved with events locally and that we can have a booth at that. And so our first event that we have a booth at is a USS Titan that's out at the Benton. And so we'll have a booth there for the Veterans Cemetery and also other, we're going to make it to where other issues to do with the veterans region can be answered. And we'll have people from Olympia coming over for that. We'll have people coming over for Desert Night. And we're going to have our booth will be inside IBW's booth. And they've been to have a place for it. So that's coming up on June 27th and 28th. Yeah, coming. for Hogs and Dogs. And that has been rescheduled for another date, and it's going to be September 13th. And they'll have another booth there. And so we're reaching out to different entities that are having booths or have vendors or people can come, and everybody so far is donating. We can come for free. And so that's wonderful. And our purpose right now is to get the word out, keep the word out there that it's coming, it's real, and get the support from the whole region. So thank you to everybody that's been involved with it, and it's moving along great. Thank you.
Councilmember Bloom.
Yeah, Ben Franklin Transit is setting new records as far as boardings. I assume it may be gas prices still driving people to the bus. But tomorrow I will take a nice trip up the valley to go see the wind farm up there above Ellensburg. And we'll have a little tour. Anybody want to come? Let me know. But other than that,
Mayor Pro Tem Brink.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to our citizens and Planning Commission members. Just a couple things. I did attend the Association of Washington Cities Labor Relations Institute training in Yakima 7 and 8 May. Very good training with regard to labor and relationships, particularly from a management perspective. I also attended the West Richland Chamber Luncheon on the 14th of May. We had, of course, Eric Mendenhall speak at that, gave us an update with regard to the city and the progress being made in some of the development that was talked about tonight. I also attended the Hanford Communities and Tri-City Regional Chamber meeting held that same day, which featured Mr. Brian Harkins. He is the acting deputy director of the Hanford Field Office, which is handling the remediation of the Hanford site, as well as Richland operations. Very informative talk with regard to progress made with the Hanford site cleanup. And then I also attended on the 16th of May, the Association of Washington Cities Legislative Priorities Planning for the next session of the legislature. We just got through this one in last month, but already planning is taking place for the 2026 session. And as part of that, I did have the privilege of meeting yesterday with Representative Barnard of the 8th District, as well as the Mayor, Community and Public Works Director on more matters dealing with the Lewis and Clark development. Lastly, I invite my fellow council members once again to attend the Association of Washington Cities annual conference being held in Kennewick on June 24th through June 26th. Please come down there. I think our mayor is going to participate in one of the sessions there as well. So I welcome everyone to come. It's in our neighborhood. That doesn't happen very often. So please take advantage of it. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Brink. Much appreciated. And then one little add to the next chamber meeting. We'll have our esteemed Roscoe Slade Public Works Director will be presenting at the West Richland Chamber Luncheon the next go around. So everybody make reservations. They're booking it out far in advance with Mr. Slade presenting. Yeah, it will probably run late and overtime because engineers can't talk or write sentences that are short. So with that, we have no executive session this evening and we'll conclude our meeting at 7:08. Thank you all for coming and joining us this evening. Slides.